Good morning, everyone. This is Lorenzo, and welcome to KSP to Mars. Today we have episode 32, and while we're not actually going to Mars, we are today designing a probe for atmospheric landing. And I want to send it to Venus and separate it there into a orbiter part and a lander part. And for that, I want the unmanned core that's flat, so I can attach stuff on both sides. So basically, the spacecraft can break in two, as it were, and be efficient that way so that I don't have to attach multiple probe cores side by side. I don't have one of these flat probe cores yet, and the cheapest one is in this science node. It's 90 points, something I would rather spend in this area going towards the better nuclear reactors or heavier lift engines, but then again, I hope to recoup this amount of points with the probes, and perhaps something interesting will show up here. So I'm going to research this node now, clickety click, and look, we got something here that we can't really look at yet, but well, I'm sure it's all amazing for the future. So I'm going to go ahead and design that probe now, and I will show it to you when I'm done with that. Alright, and here we have the Generation 2 Probe-A for Atmo, or atmosphere, something that lands in an atmosphered planet at any rate. The transfer stage of the probe is fairly boilerplate, 3 tanks, 4 tanks really, 3 of these and 2 of these smaller ones to a nuclear engine for 10 kilometers per second of delta V. This bit here, this stays in orbit, or well, it's probably just going to do a flyby. This, anyway, is not going to the planet. It has 2 goo canisters, 2 materials base, antennae, and of course a full suite of the repeatable experiments, the gravioli detector, the temperature sensor, and the seismometer, some power generation, and I think I had magnetometers as well. Yeah, here on the tank are magnetometers. And then the bit I like, it's got a decoupler here, and this is the lander. It has a heat shield here that it will use for atmospheric entry, a SAS module for proper orientation. I think I did the mass distribution right. It's heaviest here on the bottom, so that should probably enter as first. But just to be sure, we have the SAS unit, of course the whole sensor suite, and here the gas chromatograph, so that we can sample Venus's atmosphere and know what it is made of. Basic power supply, 1 battery, 2 solar panels, 1 materials bay for use on the surface, and a small fuel tank with the... I'm just going to have a look at this. I want to make everything so that it's recessed behind the heat shield, and now when I'm looking at it, I'm not sure, not confident that the parachutes actually are, so I'm going to try and move them up a little bit so that they are properly recessed. And I think they probably shouldn't interfere with the small engine like this, and I think like this they will be recessed behind the heat shield. This will be the top. Of course in space it won't be, because here is the engine sticking out with a small fuel tank here. This whole assembly has about 200 meters per second of delta V, so it's not going anywhere on its own, but it's enough to fine-tune a trajectory. Then it will land, enter the atmosphere with the heat shield, and when the speed is appropriate, the parachutes can be deployed to glide to a landing on Venus. It has a very thick atmosphere, so that should go well, and I'm not including any landing legs because they would get burnt off, and I'm anticipating a landing speed of a very low landing speed of only a few meters per second. Because of the thick atmosphere. So let's close up that fairing and proceed to launch that. And I will rejoin you when this whole assembly is in orbit. And as promised, here we are in orbit with the Venus probe, and if I do say so myself, it's a handsome motherfucker. It looks really good with the 2 panels, the 2-part lander, and well, space stage, nuclear engine here, spare fuel tanks on the side. They will of course be jettisoned when they are empty, and then the whole thing will fly off to Venus. It has about 10 kilometers per second of delta V left at this point, so this means, and the astute viewer among you will have put the dots together, connected the dots is what I meant to say, that we have a probe ready in orbit for Mercury, for Jupiter, and for Venus. So now it is becoming fast time to launch them. So I'm going to switch to the Mercury probe if I can find it in this, what is becoming a fairly busy orbital space. This is the one that's meant to go to Jupiter. Tag Lab 2. Maybe it's in a wider orbit. Generation 2 probe. I think this is the one that's supposed to go to Mercury. So let's switch to this one. And then I'm going to experiment with setting a Kerbal alarm clock alarm. Well, setting the Kerbal alarm clock really. Let's have a look. We have this celestial transfer. Let's have a look at the period of this orbit. This has, well, we are here almost at apoapsis. Time to periapsis is 2 hours, so that's about 5 hours for a circle. That's nothing that's going to mess up our transfer window. Let's see how this orbit is oriented. That is oriented pretty fine. What I mean by that is that the periapsis is at the leading edge of Earth and the apoapsis is at the trailing edge. That means we can burn over here and eject backwards. So I'm going to... Can we modify this? Editing. I want to know... Well, we have a period of 5 hours, so we need at most 5 hours to get into the correct position. I want to be notified 4 hours in advance. And I must be careful not to press the 0, because 0 is my recording key. I don't know why I can't put 4 hours. If I put 4, it automatically inputs 16. Well, 4 PM is also 1600 in 24 hour setting, but I'm not sure that's what they are going for. Can I do 5? 22 works. 2, 1, 2, 2, 2. Oh no, well, now I made it too long. Close. Okay. Yeah, I'm not too pro with this whole... Yeah, it doesn't want to it doesn't want to let me edit it anymore because the alarm I set is now in the past. So I'm going to delete the alarm and make a new one for a transfer window to what is currently known as Moho. Let's see. Hey, in this screen it says it's 17 days, and in this screen it says it's 19 days. What's up with that? Anyway, gonna add for this and have a margin of, I want 5 hours. Well, it works here. Maybe it's not because it can't have 0 minutes. I don't know. Add that alarm. And now I'm going to pop in a quick save and try and time warp forwards and make it slow down for me. Now the periapsis is at 700 kilometers here, so that should allow some decent time warping. Let's do it. So let's see if we can go. Boom. Now we have about a second per day, and I'm going to take my hands off the controls and let Kerbal alarm clock handle it. And if it does, that will be great and wonderful. Wow, this looks like... Well, it looks trippy, that's what. I don't know what it looks like, but it looks trippy. Boom! Oh, stop. Well, it didn't quite kill the time warp, but it reduced that right back down, and now we're at, well, 20 minutes for that transfer, which is, well, diddly fine. We're getting to periapsis in 1.5 hours, and of course these transfer windows are longer than, well, 20 minutes long, so that's completely fine. Moho is fairly well, the innermost planet. It's Mercury, of course. And I wonder if we do have enough delta V, because the bitch is inclined and, well, the orbit is very low. But we are going to give it a shot. Do we have a delta V readout here? Let's have a look. We have... Kerbal Engineer seems to be stuck on the readout of the launcher. I don't know why that happened. But we have this massive ion drive craft, and if I recall correctly, that did have quite a few meters per second of delta V. So we're going to try and burn immediately at the periapsis, and this is why I made the upper stage vehicle raise the apoapsis, because our burn is going to be hideously long. And that means that because of this elongated orbit, we have a, well, a nice and long path to burn along, where the orbital circularity, or the fact that an orbit is an ellipse, doesn't really change the direction in which we're burning overly much. Which is nice with these super low thrust engines, because, well, otherwise things would go horribly wrong. So here we are, decreasing the periapsis until we, if all goes well, end up with an encounter for Mercury. Well, we don't. And of course that's because our inclination is off by 7 degrees. And maybe because this ejection angle really isn't really up to snuff. So let's make that well, and now we can reduce our burn a little bit again. Or am I just looking at this all crookedly? Let's see. this has it about at the same level, and of course you will observe here that Mercury's orbit is not very circular, it's quite elliptical. So I hope this transfer window will be fine. Let's have a look at how much delta V this burn would be. It would be 6.7, I'm completely sure we have that. And then I'm gonna go for a inclination change burn at the ascending node. See if we can make an encounter that way. The other way, of course. Now this will be very costly, I think, because a 7-degree change is, well, is not to be joked about, really. So, but if we do it like this, we are not so far getting an encounter. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. Maybe we need to push this more along. Am I nuts, or are these not in the... Wait a second. These are not even close to the same altitude, so this maneuver node needs to be more. It needs to be really at... Ooh, look at that, we almost had one. Look, there was it. There it was. We have a close approach now, and now... Well, hey, that's almost at the descending node, actually, so that should really be good enough. So, alarm clock, are you leading me astray, or are you not? Let's see, can I influence that by altering the radiality, the inclination here? Can I do that? I want my encounter back. Go on. Okay, let's have a look. This is the target position. So then if I have this burn, I need to go to the ascending node and fix the inclination. And then that should probably... Oh, not like that. No, no, no. I'm going to show you this whole procedure because then I don't think I've ever shown you how I make these encounters by literally just fiddling with the maneuver node. There is zero math involved. I just fiddle until I get something. Let's see if we can do it. This looks like we're going to approach an encounter, but then again, the markers are coming closer together, but they're not really. Come on, come on. You can do it. Oh, this is so annoying. How does this happen? How does this not happen? Anyway, how much delta V would this... Ah! For fuck's sake. Okay, so the encounter is going to happen at this point. So this burn needs to spend as much time as possible in that area. So like this. And then the second one... Make... Come on, make that 0-esque. Not 2. And now we're going to fiddle with the pro and retrograde. Oh, this is so close, but why are we not actually making it? Ooh, we had an encounter there. Very slight. Very, very slight. Of course, the sphere of influence of Mercury is going to be tiny, so close to the Sun. Let's see if we can't make it like this. So that means this is 3 kilometers per second, and this here is 7.3, the one we're looking at now. So that would be 10.6. I'm not sure we have that. I'm not sure we have that. I hope we have it. If we don't have it, I'm going to tweak the orbit from the periapsis here and see if we can make like a sun diving sun diving thing. So first things first, let's do the burn here. Where is our maneuver node? 7.3 meters per second from these ion engines. That's going to be a scary long burn. And don't worry, I'm not going to talk you all the way through that. Yeah, thanks. That's exactly what I wanted. That's the transfer burn there, and this is a maneuver node here. I'm going to start burning 45 minutes before that burn happens because, oh dear lord, it says this burn is going to take 4.5 hours. Yeah, that is a while. So I'm going to I am going to save the game and reload it to see if I can get this plugin to work to tell me whether or not we have enough delta V for the whole maneuver. And if not, then I'm going to expend all of the fuel of this probe to make a sun diving, sun grazing approach out of it, so that it gets readings from close over the sun, hopefully. Yeah. First though, there is an hour of burning at ×4 time acceleration in store, so I'm going to cut out the video here and I will rejoin you when that inevitably goes horribly wrong, or hopefully of course amazingly well. So see you in 4.5 hours. So here I am with you back in the middle of this burn. I went out, grabbed some pizza, ate half of it, and now I'm back. And what occurred to me is that I'm not going to have enough delta V to do this 7 kilometers per second burn, and then a mid-course correction of 3 kilometers per second. And then I thought, well, it should be possible to tweak the maneuver node, so I get an encounter straight from Kerbin, and I have. It's 3.3 kilometers per second from here. We already did a burn of about 3.4, which I didn't remember. So add to that the flight engineer is currently broken and doesn't show me the delta V for this craft, and it's very much up in the air if we're in fact going to make it. Initially I was hopeful. I looked at this top Xenon tank and I was like, well, hey, the first one is only depleted so far, we have tons of delta V. But then again, the Xenon tanks, they drain uniformly, so they're all depleted at this level, which means we've burned through more than a half of our Xenon, and we did more than 3.3, but not like 3/4 of, this is not like 3/4 of the total, this is more. So the question is the missing weight of the Xenon enough to grant the extra delta V here, or will it not be? We shall see in, well, an hour and 45 minutes, or, well, sooner if they burn out sooner. I wish the engineer worked, because that would tell me the burn time and I could instantly see whether it was going to be enough. I have a fear that it is not going to be enough, but I'm going to run the burn and find out. In the meantime, we're fairly high over Kerbin, and I did the gravity scan, which gave me some science, but that is now all gone. So see you when the fuel runs out, and hopefully we're going to make it. But maybe not. Possibly. Probably not. Unfortunately. And as promised, there we are, coming up on the end of our fuel, and agonizingly, we're just like 350 meters per second short of reaching the goal. Could this have been eked out by choosing the correct efficient trajectory immediately? Probably. Would this have been fixed by just adding one more container of Xenon? Yes. So this mission to Mercury has now officially failed, squarely because of inadequate, inept planning. That said, this bring along a bunch of ion drives to power a fairly heavy vehicle. Well, it could work, I suppose, but it's fairly annoying because this burn took a long time. Still, not all is lost. We do get some gravity data as the planet now rotates under us, and we will have a ship out in solar space soon enough, in 1 day actually. And if we look, take a peek here, our transfer window to Joule opens in 1 day 21 hours, so we can just fast forward to that point where it gets into solar space, and then once there, We can do some science experiments. I don't think we did the gravioli there yet. And well, get some science and then switch to our other design that will go to Jupiter. So without further ado, we can kiss goodbye, wave goodbye to Mercury, kiss Mercury goodbye, however you want to put that. We're not going there today, and this launch window for it has been squandered. Next time we'll bring more advanced propulsion or better planning and, well, probably make it. So let's go. We are soon to get into... there we go, the automatic sphere of influence change that worked out great. And now of course we're just going to go straight ahead and re-enable that time warp. Now here we are in solar orbit with a periapsis. Well, from that angle it looked like it did get inside Mercury's, but it didn't. So unfortunately none of that is going to happen. Instead we're going to run our science experiments here on the fringes of solar space. Let's have a look at the gravity data. High over the sun, that's 88 points for the gravity science, so that's rather good. Of course all the other probes would have provided us with that as well, but well, we're getting it from this one first, so that's something, I suppose. Can we do a temperature scan here? We cannot do the temperature scan, and what I noticed, I forgot to put the magnetometers on. I put them here on the girders, but then I must have gone and redesigned them because they are not actually present. So, well enough that this one is not going to Mercury, that would be a whole lot of wasted science. So can we repeat this gravity scan for 3.5 science points more? We'll just go ahead and do that. The mystery goo, I think that was returned by Bill maybe before he died, so that is useless for us. I think the same goes for the science material bay here. Yes, that was returned as well. So, not a whole lot of science, but then again 88 points. To be fair, in the beginning of our program, 88 points would have meant the world, so best be grateful for that. One thing I thought of that could possibly be tried, and then I have to point retrograde here, is to jettison the ion drives and get a little bit of delta V that way. But of course that would never be anywhere close to 400. But let's have a look and see how much that actually would be. So jettison this one here. We're at 2261 now, and we are pointing this towards Earth, so that's pointed prograde. So we're looking for this number to decrease. So now I just need to select. Oh, maybe I can just add a stage, and because I'm having trouble selecting it, I'm just going to do it like this and jettison this. So that's 1 meter per second. So yeah, we could repeat that 5 more times and get 5 meters per second. Not quite enough to, well, get anywhere. But let's do it anyway because, you know, playing around, crying because we didn't get the transfer to Mercury. So that's this one. No, and do it like that. Oh, that's a different one. Well, let's just ditch them all. Boom! Scattering ion drives into space. So this one here is now fairly useless. We will see. It will be the one that gets down the lowest because Venus orbits higher than this. We'll see if this counts as near to the moon, near to the sun. And maybe we can get some awesome gravity data for that. I'm going to try and set an alarm for that. See if we can do that. Apoapsis, periapsis, periapsis. Yes, we can do that. Great. Add the alarm. This will happen in 102 days. Wonderful. So let's switch to the Mercury, the Jupiter probe, and send that on its way. So trying to focus on Earth now. And this was the, what did we call it? I think not that one, the XS one. Yes, that's the one that's going to Jupiter. And I know for a fact that this has, no, I have no idea how much delta V it has. I was gonna say 10 kilometers per second, but it could just as well be 8. I think going to Jupiter requires less than going to Mercury, but I'm not sure about this. So we're gonna see how this goes. For now, I'm going to, well, eat some pizza or something, do something else. That long burn really took it out of me, so you won't notice that. It'll just be a flash cut, but I'll see you in, I don't know, a day. Bye. So, as promised, back with the Generation 2 XS, extra small Jupiter probe. Here we are, and we still have a remainder of our upper stage attached because this one is properly small, and well, that gives us a few kilometers extra delta V. We have 4 canisters of xenon here, and a quick comparison with the last probe will teach me that this will take about an hour at ×4 time acceleration to burn up. So that's another long burn to look ahead of. Well, to look forward to, not to look ahead of. That doesn't make any sense. The launch window to Jupiter opens up in 19 hours. Well, that means we can launch now, but we're going to try and do this by the book and do it as exact as possible. That means I'm going to perform a burn here now to lengthen the orbit, so that again I can do the long duration ion burn in one go, and otherwise I'm going to have to split it up in around many orbits, and well, that will just be a pain, really. I haven't worked out whether this is more efficient or not. It shouldn't maybe too much of a difference, but one thing is for sure, it is more efficient time-wise. So I'm going to do that, then time warp a bit, set up the maneuver node to Jupiter, and I will see you when that is accomplished. And there we are. I learned my lesson from the last probe, and I'm not going to settle for any maneuver node that's not going to put me right on target. So here we have it. The maneuver node that will put me on a collision course with Jupiter. Now, of course, if I actually manage to hit it like this with the collision course, it's a matter of applying 1 or 2 meters per second of delta V to make that a close encounter. So that's a good way to start from these interplanetary distances. The time here will be about just under 2 years to get there, which is pretty good for something as far out as Jupiter, I dare say. The problem is the first bit of the burn will be quite rapid. I'm estimating there is about a kilometer per second of delta V left in this upper stage. Now the Kerbal Engineer is still broken. I don't know what's up with that. So I can't tell for sure how much is in it, but I know that this probe here has, well, I don't know, the 6, 8 or 10. So it should have enough. Well, I'm quite a good rocket engineer, aren't I? I'm going to remove the flight engineer because that is useless. The problem now is that the maneuver node I set starts in 30 minutes. It will be a several hour burn, so if I was doing it with just the ion engine I would start it now, but if I apply a kilometer per second towards the planet, that might be counterproductive. So I'm going to wait a little bit until we're a little bit closer to the node, then I'm going to use the remainder of the upper stage to kickstart the trajectory. And then the ion engine can take over and, well, putter the rest of the way there. Look, you can see the maneuver node, it shoots me a little bit out of the plane because, well, apparently now there is some inclination. But this here will come right back up and hit Jupiter in the face. I can get up there for less delta V. I can get the altitude for about 5 kilometers per second, but that way I get an encounter at several million kilometers out, and one way or the other I'm going to have to get closer to it. So I might as well do that from the start, and if I nail this burn, then at least we're going to go there immediately. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to time warp forward a little bit so that I can shoot past the planet on this stage and then continue the burn, as I said, with the ion drive. Let's see. 10 minutes. Yeah, I'm going to go for it now. And, well, it is dark, so you're not seeing an awful lot, but this should mean at least I'm not going to shoot into the planet. So, I'm going to apply the first kilometer per second 10 minutes before. Now, look, we're already on the straight path. This is why I lengthen the orbits before doing the burns, because then, well, this curvature doesn't really have such a big effect. Anyway, here we are going to light this engine, and here's this probe accelerating at 5 Gs. That's probably the most it's going to experience. Well, it's going to experience a little bit more before the stage runs out, coming up on 5.5 and 6, and after that it's the ion engine taking over, and that will accelerate it at positively tiny G levels. So, what did I say, what I was estimating about this upper stage? About a kilometer per second. Turns out to be a little bit more than that, about 1.3. So, separating that, and then throwing in a quick save for good measure, because I don't know how this ship is built anymore. Then activating the ion engine. There we are. That's gently pushing us away from that stage. Look, it's not going fast at all. And as I predicted, we have a 4-hour burn time ahead of us. Something that should be doable with just 3 canisters. Do I have just the 3 canisters? I have 1, 2, 3. God, dear God, I hope this has enough delta V. This is broken. I just hope I have enough delta V, because if I'm going to miss this as well, that would be super embarrassing. Fortunately, this probe is lighter than the other one because it carries only the renewable experiments, the gravity data here. Well, that's been done for Kerbin. The magnetometer, that's been done for Kerbin. And the temperature sensor, which also has been done for Kerbin. Earth. So this will be able to do a lot of science and hopefully swing by a few of the Julian moons with all that delta V that it has. Hopefully, at any rate. So, there's not a lot more I can do now, so I'm going to settle in for the hour-long burn that is at 4 times time acceleration, and of course not show that to you, because then you would run away, cry and be bored, and I don't want to do that to you. So see you in an hour. Alright, so here we are back with the Jupiter probe, and something happened. I set up the maneuver node and I went for a burn. I left the burn running for a good while, and that's how I didn't quite see or catch on quickly enough how this has become the ejection angle, basically straight into the system. That is not conducive to a nice transfer. You want this ejection angle to go as much parallel to the to the orbital path of the planet, which is here. I have sort of fixed it with this maneuver node, which is would be the burn from here. That will still give us an encounter in 2, almost 3 years, so that's a year longer transit route. Problem is that's 5.5 kilometers per second of delta V from here, and we were at the point where there was only 4 kilometers per second remaining. Incidentally, I caught on to this horrible goof up that because I saw the delta V counter starting to increase again. That's how much the trajectory had deviated from the maneuver node. So all my talk of elongating the orbit and then burning, it was all rubbish or not enough. It went horribly wrong. Or it could also possibly have been because I was doing the out of plane vector immediately from the orbit, which of course is a little bit more susceptible to the rotation induced off-targetness. So we're going to soldier ahead with the burn regardless. That's 4.5 hours again from here, and I don't think we have the fuel for that. I think it's, 1 tank of xenon gives about 4 hours of thrusting. And no, what I'm trying to say, oh, we have 4 tanks. What I'm trying to say is that I thought that 3 tanks, the amount we had on the previous vessel, that would be about enough for about 4 hours. So, well, maybe we can make it with this. I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm going to give it a shot. It would be a pity to, well, immediately trash a second probe, waste another launch window. But then again, that's the nature of space travel, and this one might be, I was going to say, might be able to get high data over the sun, but then again, the Earth already counts as high over the sun, so that's, well, that might not work. I'm not sure why these probes end up having so few, such a low amount of kilometers per second of delta V, because I think, if I remember, when I was building them in the hub, in the vehicle assembly building, they all had like 10 kilometers per second, and it turns out they don't. Either the Kerbal Engineer is more broken than I thought. Well, now it's definitely broken, but either that doesn't properly count up the ion engine delta V's, or I'm just an idiot that remembers things wrong and puts in wrong angles, which is, to be honest, the more likely explanation of all these difficulties and problems. So I'm going to let this run for a long time again, and I will see you when the fuel runs out, and we'll tell you the fate of this wonderful probe. So could well be that all our hopes are now pointed towards the Venus probe, and that we know because we launched it recently, still has 9 kilometers per second of delta V, which is about the amount needed to get to Mercury, and Venus is closer than Mercury. So that at least should have enough delta V to get to its destination, but well, no promises there because everything is going wrong today. Anyway, I've been babbling for too long already. See you when the fuel runs out. Ciao ciao. There we are. After several lengthy burns, I had to do a similar correction twice more, and the total delta V requirement spiraled up to about 8-9 kilometers per second. The craft was capable of it. The xenon is almost depleted now. We have just under 40 units per tank remaining, which gives us 157 units in total. We have an encounter though with Jupiter at a distance of 3.7 million kilometers, and as you can see, that difference is because it's still a little bit out of the plane of Jupiter. So I'm going to wait until the ascending node here. We should be there in about a year, and then see if I can't make this a little bit closer. That should be possible, as you can see by this maneuver node, for about 150 meters per second of delta V. That would give us a collision course. So that's what we're going to try, but that's well, a year into the future now. So I'm going to try and make an alarm for that descending node. So let's see if I can do that ascending descending node, and that is the ascending node. 1 minute before, that's fine enough. That's good enough because we don't care about the minute precision. Let's see, Jupiter probe course correction. This is really handy. I like this this add-on a lot. Oh, I have to wait until it's in solar orbit. Good. I think so at any rate, because it won't let me add it now. The launch window for the Venus probe, Eve in the game, happens in 2 days, and this probe gets to solar space in just under a day, so we can make that happen by time warping. That means we can measure the magnetosphere of the Sun, set that maneuver node, and then switch over to the Venus probe to send that on its way as well. So let's go and do that. I'm still manually decelerating the time acceleration. I think the alarm clock does it as well, but yeah, I did it fine. Decelerated it to 10 times, but then again I did it by myself as well, because that's, well, that's the habit. So there we go, changing sphere of influences, and now we are in solar orbit. So let's see if the encounter has survived that. It has. And let's measure some solar readings. Where's our dear Sun? Look at that. Far away. And oh, I'm still in a time warp, I think. Yeah. Gravity scan. Well, this was done by the other probe. That's wonderful. We can still send up and do one of those sounding rocket kind of things, where we send the probe up to this boundary and then immediately down again for 140 science of the grav max. If we ever need something, that's a quick and easy mission to do. For now, let's have a look at the magnetosphere data. Ooh, that's good and juicy as well. It's 132. So let's go on and transmit that home. Of course, the nuclear reactor provides enough power for, well, virtually endless amount of these transmissions. Boom, 132 science added. Let's have a look at, can we do that again for 7.9? Well, 7.9 is still 7.9 sciences. And does the temperature reading work here? That does not work here. So again, we're scienced out pretty quickly, but we did score a lot of points. So I can set the alarm for the descending node here now. Let's do that. Let's see, what was it? It was the ascending node. Ascending node. Jupiter probe course correction. Great. Add that alarm. So the order of events now is, first we're going to launch the Venus probe, then we're going to investigate the Mercury probe. That's not going to make Mercury, but it's going to sample the Sun from close up, if that's close enough. Then we have 3 more launch windows, one to Vol and Dress. I'm not quite sure what they represent. I'm going to have to look that up. Anyway, that's not going to happen in this episode for sure. And then we get our first launch window to Juno, Mars, after that we get the results from this episode. So I'm thinking here I'm going to launch the Venus probe this episode, design and launch Mars stuff for the next, and then fast forward to some conclusions. But for now let's switch to that Venus probe and have a look at the Science Center in between, because that's sure to have some possibilities for us, or at least gives us a count of points. With 311 points again, and that's sure to skyrocket when and if any of these probes arrive. The first thing I'm going to get now is this one, in the hopes that it will lead to this. Hey, so I could actually go and get that now. Can get the lander can. Ooh, I might even use that to land on Mars. Ooh, well, I have to think about that. But I'm going to research this now. 300 points, bam, get it. And I was correct, it did unlock the heavier rockets. The mainsails, the ones that will lift our heavy payloads up into space. The mainsails power rivals that of small nations, that's good. A big, super big fuel tank. And a HA-1 aluminum hybrid rocket. That's something from KSP Interstellar. I don't know what that's about, but I hear that it's easy to use on the moon because it can refuel on the moon. That is amazing. Anyway, more toys to play with, that's always good. And a pure liquid fuel tank, a large one. Right, so more stuff to play with. This is the next node we're going to get, definitely. 505 science points for that, and that will unlock heavy lifting technology and a new kind of fuel, which is always good. And here we have the possibility for meta materials. An inflatable heat shield that is amazing and super large as well. It's 6.25 meters. Stack bi adapter, quad adapters, multi-point hubs, senior docking port, a large one. Inline docking ports. Oh, a solar sail. Ooh, this is also exciting stuff. But first we're going to go for the very heavy rocketry. So 550 science points to go for that. So with that in mind, let's go to the Venus probe and launch that off to Venus. This one carries the potential for a lot of science because it of course has a lander as well and an orbital component. So and perhaps importantly, this one has a nuclear engine. Ooh, what folded in there? Oh, this is the magnetometers. I want those deployed. This one has a nuclear engine, a Nerva, and that means that the transfers won't take quite so long, something for which I am quite grateful. I'm going to time warp ahead, set up an encounter, and I will show you that when it's done. So see you then. Right, here we are. The maneuver node has been set up. The sphere of influence for Venus is tiny because it's close into the Sun. It's a fairly small planet, but we made it. It's 300,000 kilometers, which is fairly close. Is it 300,000? Yes, it is 300,000 kilometers, and the delta V is positively tiny. It is 3.5 kilometers per second, which is, well, might as well be nothing compared to the humongous amounts of the other transfers. At that we have a nuclear engine which is far more beefier in the thrust department, and this transfer will be over in a jiffy, just a mere 20-minute burn. Unbeknownst to me, I did not plan it at all, this is the most appropriate lander for the Venus probe because it has the thrust, and we can get away with that because the delta V requirement is a lot lower. It has a lot of delta V, about 10 kilometers per second, this 9.5 if I recall correctly, and that is also needed because it needs to get in orbit around Venus so that its lander may deploy. Well, technically it doesn't need to get in orbit first, but that will soften the impact on the atmosphere of that lander by a large degree, which will of course increase its chances for survival. I'm most excited about this probe because it's going to land, and because well, there is a lot of science kit on it. The burn is still slated to take 18 minutes, still too long to subject you to, my dear viewers, so I will check back with you once that burn is complete. As you see, we have a lot of fuel remaining. I think these tanks will just about have run out when we finish the burn, so see you then. And finally, there we are with the last fuel tank just a little bit used. The two other ones, they have recently been jettisoned. There they are, 16 kilometers away. And we have set up our encounter with Venus, slated to take place in just a short 114 days. If we take a look at the alarm clock, I would like to put an alarm. Let's see. Here we have that alarm. Let's edit that and give it a label. Venus probe arrives. And we have a periapsis of just 60,000 kilometers, well 70 really, so we don't need any mid-course corrections. We can do that upon entering the sphere of influence. After all, we have about 3 kilometers per second, or even 4 of delta V left, so that is luxury living as far as I'm concerned. So again, first things up are the Mercury probe. Well, we can fast forward to that, and that then will be the last thing we look at in this episode. Let's do that, and we can well, at least have some sort of closure rather than all those missions that drag on for many episodes. I decided to do it this way though because I could do it differently, where for instance when I launched that Uranus probe I would immediately time warp for 11 years. But if I were to keep that up, we never would get anything looking like a busy space program with lots of probes on the way, which is nice to see. And also it would, well, progress time into the future at an absurd rate. While there aren't really any gameplay consequences to that, I don't really like that. There's not really a reason for that, but it's just the way things are. So, what did I name that? I think that's just a Generation 2 probe. That's on its way to Mercury. Let's see. Yes, it is. That's the one. So let's fly that one and time accelerate for, what was it, about 94 days. And then see if that counts as low over the sun. I have a feeling it won't, but we shall see. Oh yeah, I ditched all the ion drives. I forgot about that. So 94 days. I think the KSP Interstellar adds like the 1 million time acceleration. We're at 100,000 times now. Let's see if I can... Yep, it has the 1 million time acceleration. So this is now counting down the days quite rapidly. Very welcome addition indeed. I'm going to reduce that manually, even though the alarm clock does it as well, but I just don't trust it yet. It's like a new babysitter. You don't immediately leave the house because you don't trust them. This is doing a stellar job though. So here we are, 10 seconds away from perihelion. Look, the sun does look bigger, but not by a huge amount. So it's nothing like the stock game where these differences are huge. Yeah, delete that. So we are sort of close to Mercury, but well, not close enough. So let's give it a go. Run the science experiment, the gravioli reader first. Nah, it still says high over the sun. So this probe is now officially defunct. Well, too bad, too bad. Perhaps someday there will be a use for this, or maybe it will get an encounter all by itself. I doubt it though, because that would be incredibly, well, lucky. Oh look, the Venus probe arriving. That's only in 18 days. Well, that's a nice thing for tomorrow's episode, because this one has run on for long enough now. So, oh, I'm going to do one more thing before I leave. And that is have a look at the science station in orbit. That has been in orbit for about 3 months now. So if all went well, that should have generated, if I remember, it was 0.14 points a day. So that's about 3 or 4 points. So maybe even 5 if they really cracked at it. So not a huge amount, not a huge treasure trove of science, but we can at least go and have a look at that. So that is the Tech Lab 2. Let's go have a look at it. And of course, if this works, the next thing on the agenda should be to get some science labs in orbit around the moon and then launch them off to Mars in the next transfer window, because after we get our robot landers we need an orbital presence, and then we can start... Oh look, 17 science points. It's a bit strange how it unfolds the radiators only when you load the station and then not all of them, but oh well. 17 science points from the laboratory. Everyone here is still doing fine. So on that bombshell, it's time to end. And yes, I did watch Top Gear yesterday. So thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow, and let's see if we can land on Venus then, shall we? This was Lorenzo. Good night.